Thanks everyone for joining today. I'm Andrew Watkins, the co-founder and COO of Marketplace.city. Along with today is Jen Sanders, the executive director of the North Texas Innovation Alliance, amongst many other things. but that's the hat today with her storied background. So we're going to be discussing today the revenue generating opportunity that NTXIA put out through a partnership with Marketplace.city. We're all very excited about. That we released almost 2 weeks ago. Now, I don't know the exact date off the top of my head, but almost 2 weeks ago. But we wanted to give this opportunity today to try to bring it to life a little bit more, both why the group from North Texas is doing it, what the communities there hope to get out of it, how it's going to go and how the data is going to be used, and then also most importantly, answer your questions. So we're going to just cover very quickly a couple of webinar, how we're going to run it, logistics, and then we're going to jump right into that overview. I'll turn it over to Jen, and then for most of the time, we do want to take your questions and get your those questions answered. So everyone is, I wrote here on mute, but we're in webinar mode, so you can't unmute yourself at this point. If you have a question, there are two options, right? You can type it in the chat. And we can answer it, or you can raise your hand, and when we get to the questions point, we will promote you to be a speaker, and you can ask the question. We know some of the questions might make more sense talking through them. Just please try to limit, obviously not having a 7-part question if possible, so that others can have a turn as well. We do have a pretty big group today. We are recording this. We are going to post it on the NTXIA page on Marketplace, which I will cover where that is in a second. And we'll also, with everyone who is registered on the Zoom or on today, as a result of that, we'll get the link to that recording and to the slides, though the slides aren't anything special. If there are any questions afterward or logistics, or you're not getting something, you can always email hello@marketplace.city, and it's on our website as well, and we'll get you the information that you need. So a couple of very quick things before we get into the overview. So key information, we're accepting the submissions through July 16th. That's 1 month and a day. So if you haven't taken a look yet, I'll show you where all the information is. Please get them in. We are going to start creating draft reports for some of the users as things are submitted. We actually already have 2 submissions. Thank you to those two folks who did that. But you can also update and edit your submissions up until it. So if you think you have everything, but you're worried you forgot something, you can always change it, but we're going to start some of that reporting. I am going to minimize this for a second to show you where all the information is. So first, and you guys can see that, right? So great. On the NTXIA page on Marketplace is where we have all of this nice information on what NTXIA is, this opportunity overview of what we're doing, and I will go to that in a second. And then any sort of key information. I haven't updated this with some of the articles that have been written about it. That will be a later on today activity, but the webinar recording will go right in here as well, with all of the additional information replacing the webinar link there. In order to find this from Marketplace, the main page, which is, there we go, taking a second to go to. It can be found here in the list for North Texas Innovation Alliance, or you can go directly to it from right here. So with that, I also want to show, if you take this link, where the actual document itself is. Of course, this is being difficult for me to be able to show it. It's hidden behind that. Hold on just a second. The monitor I'm presenting on is causing difficulty. All right, there we go. So this is what will happen when you click that link. It will take you to our Procure Now instance, our partner of Marketplaces, to be able to submit the information. Makes it very straightforward. All of the information you need is right here on these main screens, and then can be found right here in the document. All the background information that we're going to cover, the place for the vendor response. I am logged in as a vendor right now, so I can start and draft a response. I encourage everyone, I am already clicked the following, but to follow it, that's the best way to get the information. If there are updates or those sorts of things, because then it's it's clear that you at least have an interest in it. For any updates to the projects, it'll be there. You can begin to draft a response and save it along the way. So if you only want to do parts of it, you can definitely take a look at all the questions here. We'll get into this, but we're not, hopefully not asking for the sun and the moon. We're trying to make sure that we, ask for things that about folks' solutions that they have on hand to start to educate the cities on these process, and hopefully, moving towards, meetings and deeper conversations about implementing those solutions across multiple places. But don't want to get sort of too far ahead of myself there. I'm going to jump back right here. And then, so this is in the link if you are confused, afterward where those were or wasn't clear. When the slides come out there, the links are in there. And then, if there are already questions, you're having trouble getting access to something, again, please just email hello@marketplace.city. And then, yeah, all of these, and we'll talk about this more, right? The point of this is to get this in front of all the NTXIA government members and the Marketplace government partners. This is the opportunity to get this shared, across your solutions across, multiple governments in one shot. So I think with that, Jen, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you give an overview of how we got here with your folks from NTXIA and why you guys are doing this. And then we'll talk about sort of the next steps, and I'll talk a little bit about how we're going to use the data as well. So with that, Jen, you can go ahead, and I'm going to stop sharing because this is not an exciting slide, and just let us talk.
No, that's great. Thank you so much, Andrew. So first of all, I love the interest here, and looking at the participants, I think it's such a great representation of public sector industry. There's university representation on here, and that's so emblematic of what the NTXIA is and how we're really looking to get all voices to the table. How are we solving common challenges in new ways? And to Andrew's point, how this opportunity came about when the NTXIA was launched a little over a year ago, we really took 2020 and just said, what are the priorities that we want to focus on as a group? How do we get from boiling the ocean to boiling the Great Lakes, and then move down that path? And obviously, as everyone on this call knows, how you pay for things is a critical factor, and often the barrier that keeps us from doing innovative pieces while taking on the pragmatism of the day-to-day operations of running a city and supporting residents. So what we wanted to do is take a look. We ad hoc hear about cities that are implementing solutions with different models. We are hearing through the grapevine that there's new methods emerging, but having that total landscape of the market. How are people defining revenue generation? As an example, we often hear that described in different ways. But really, looking at the priorities of the membership individually and then collectively as a region, we just want to know what we don't know. And so by putting this call out, and many, many thanks to Marketplace for their partnership, what we want to start to understand is what is most aligned with the problems that we're looking to solve, within North Texas and beyond. And if we can match make there and dig deeper, and if we thought we're not going to be able to get to this for 3 years or 5 years, but knowing that these tools are available really is going to be able to accelerate the innovation that we all want to provide. And so really that's at its very baseline what we're trying to do here. I'm going to go on mute for a second and turn it over to Andrew, and then I can jump back in.
Jen's dog is really excited about this opportunity as well. Isn't work from home great? Along those lines, right? So the goal is to gather in all of those submissions, and then what we're going to do with the data, jumping ahead to that, and come fill back in on some of the more specifics. What we want to do is, once all the submissions are done and as they're coming in, start some of this reporting, is we want to bucket them into some of the draft areas that we have put out, such as asset monetization or data monetization, or new forms of advertising, or lost revenue capture. That's not an exhaustive list. Our whole model, and then I think this group of cities has said as well, they're smart enough to know there's stuff they don't know, right? As Jen mentioned. So what we want to be able to do is bucket the different types of solutions that fit in, that are like solutions that fit into different categories or new categories that are emerging. Be able to show what do those solutions do, where are they already working, what stage are they in? Is it a pilot? Have you scaled this multiple times in a different state and they don't know about it, or in Europe and they don't know about it? And sort of show them and educate them on what's going out there. From there, the plan is both as a group within NTXIA, to have meetings with individual vendors or around individual topic areas to learn more about, hey, how can you do this, whether it is city by city or regionally? That's one of the questions we asked too. Can they be implemented at regional scale or multi-jurisdictional scale, across agencies and transit and those types of things too? We're trying to cast that wide net, and then individually as well, right? We know even within NTXIA and the cities of I won't put any cities on the spot, but cities of 500,000 or 250,000, or just cities in different areas have different wants and needs and different goals and risk tolerances than others. And so some may gravitate to some of those newer lost revenue capture ones or asset monetization ones. And people may be looking for, hey, what things are quick wins? So we tried to ask the questions in a dynamic enough way that we can, as part of some of the sort of standard marketplace analysis, cut the data in different ways to sort of show people filterable categories and options, right? Which solutions are already past the pilot stage and at scale? Which solutions are, no upfront cost, if any, right? Which solutions have a payback period inside of X, right? Being able to show those pieces, and then the goal is, again, as a group or individually, to have follow-up conversations, meetings with solution providers to talk about how would this be implemented, what types of things go forward, all the way down to, again, each city can make their own choice, entering into partnerships or going forward with some of the solutions. That's the main idea here, sort of following, our standard process, trying to cast the wide net, bring it down to a funnel in a way that serves both the cities and the solution providers, but also sort of gets them information on some of these new and emerging spaces. Jen, I don't know if you want to jump back in on some of those details.
I should seize the opportunity, right? From a dog perspective. No, I think the only other pieces that I would add are, again, as everyone is aware here, cities are in different stages of readiness, whether it's base level infrastructure or otherwise. So I think a really important piece here that we're looking to really understand is, what are the necessary core components up front? What are the technical requirements necessary? Because ultimately, one of the goals of the organization is, how do we shorten the time frame to deployment? And a lot of that piece is, how do we get to the RFP as quickly as possible? And when we don't know what we don't know how to write requirements, we don't know what kind of models to put in for a new solution. Really, what we're trying to do is serve everyone, no matter the sector, in saying, if what took 6 months of internal research now could take 6 weeks because we have all of this upfront baseline information, all of us win, and ultimately the residents too. So that's also a key component of this exercise. We really want to match make and dig in and see how we get all of this done faster.
Yep, perfect. And I will, to answer what potentially are folks' questions, a couple of ones that either people had asked previously over email or I know I have seen pop up. One is, yes, sort of the idea is this data is going to be shared, with NTXIA, who's sort of the partner on this. We've also had other cities, counties, governments on Marketplace.city already sort of raise their hand and say, hey, I'm interested in that sort of stuff too. Can I see the data afterward? And the plan is yes. I don't think there's anything in those questions that should be, we're not asking detailed specific things about, proprietary natures of algorithms or pieces like that, or exactly, a quote for someone in one place or another. So it shouldn't be anything that would be an issue being, shared again with individual governments or collectively as a group. Not necessarily, we're not going to just broadcast it, up on the site as part of our process. If anyone has any questions about that, certainly feel free to reach out, or if there's parts that they're worried about on that, we can sort of take those individually. We've been able to find ways with that before. So there's, I think interest, beyond that. And then I think there's, at least from the folks, and Jenny can speak more to this too, on the NTXIA front, there are, probably multiple paths forward, right? Talking about with some of them, they may be things where there ultimately is now a tighter definition in something that is RFP. There are some of the solutions that I expect would come back based on, some of the people I know who've already downloaded the document. Some of the solutions we know, they may be things that, don't have an upfront cost, and there are ways to just enter directly into a partnership, or they may be things that are really unique and emerging and they can be a sole source. So there are, I think, multiple pathways on this, right? And different things for different cities, right? Different cities and governments have sort of different rules on that. And then sort of lastly, and then, Jen, if there's anything you can add, otherwise we can jump into the questions. If you think your solution fits the model of, I have a solution that will help the city generate new revenue, capture new revenue, and it's part of the solution piece, right? Not just, hey, I can sell you data aggregation tool that will help you have better data. And then if you want to sell that data, no problem. Well, that might be a hop too far. But if you think you have something that fits and we haven't described it exactly right, submit it, right? I think that we know that this, from having done some more casual surveys 2 and 3 years ago, is definitely an evolving space as it relates to curb pricing or energy, new models of energy, electrification. We know there are things that they are unique business models with the government, and that for some governments is scary, right? It's not a business, isn't the term that they're in, but others are embracing that. They understand that there might be new ways they have to work with the private sector. So it may not fit for everyone, but if you think you have something that fits there, we definitely encourage you to take a look and submit something, because this is a great opportunity to push forward and educate about your solution, and then potentially move into a contract or a partnership or whatever it ends up being. So Jen, anything else? We do have a couple of questions starting to come in, but just on that front, you can ask them through the question and answer tool. You can raise your hand, and then we can get to those.
I think the one other thing I'd raise before we start taking questions is to the point of the public sector interest outside of North Texas. We're actually going to be announcing something tomorrow, a formalized partnership with other regions across the United States to have dedicated collaboration and forums with which to look at this proposal response and look at how we may want to move forward cross region, how we might want to be able to invite in more detailed information. But we really see this as an opportunity to benefit and to create that dedicated network around this core challenge. And so if there's municipalities, if there's nonprofits like us on the line and you want to be part of those kind of internal collaborations, please reach out to me, because we definitely love the concept of this being a kickoff point to look at cross-region or national insights and peer-to-peer deployment.
Great. And if you don't have Jen's information and it's, you want to email hello, we'll make sure it gets to the right place as well. But yes, obviously any, governments, nonprofit, cities who want to talk about, more collaboration, definitely reach out. All right. We do have some questions coming in, and then I'll look to my team to see if there's, as people are raising their hands too. Just the one that I think was already answered, but yes, we are recording this, and yes, it will be published on that site and sent out to everyone. So don't worry there. Jen, I'm going to start by reading the questions, and you can answer them, or if you want me to add a way in as well too, you can defer. It's a little bit of a game show model here too. So the first one, we talked about this a little bit, but we can be more explicit, right? So would solutions that generate cost savings be of interest, or are we purely looking for revenue generating solutions?
Well, I think to that point, I think we are, and because that's something, when we talk about how is everyone defining revenue generation right now, that the efficiencies are certainly part of that. And then, part of the vision could be that goes into a dedicated portfolio or a closed loop fund, right, that can do reinvestment. So I would look at cost savings as a viable solution to submit.
Yeah, I think is if there's components of it, but then there's also sort of that revenue component as part of it. I hope most solutions people are selling to people have value to the government, and that they have cost savings. But yeah, I think if it can tie to that, it can be submitted, and we'll put it into the bucket that makes sense. All right. All right, so some of the solutions are more relevant by a larger region covered by NTXIA. Does NTXIA have the authority to convene in that context, or should we consider NTXIA as a pass-through for the city, county, and region? And Jen, I don't know if you can see the questions or not, but if you can, that's the second one in there. Okay, perfect. Jen, I think you probably provide the best context for that one.
Sure. No, should I make you answer that one?
No, I mean, I'll give my answer, but it won't be right.
I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. We could play each other. No, Paul, thanks for the question. So it's a little bit of both, which probably is not, the definitive answer that you'll want. Our function is to convene. And so we want to look at regional solutions. And so if that makes the most sense, if the use case is compatible, across jurisdiction, we're going to look at it from a regional perspective. And then there's lots of mechanisms by which that may move forward. So it really is situational, but if you have a solution that really is geared toward cross-jurisdictional or regional, we want to see that, equally as much as we want to see those that really are best served with a defined municipality or agency. So we really do want to see both, and depending on the match, and how aligned, we could potentially move forward with either regional or individual.
Yep, my unofficial, not affiliated answer to NTXIA is that as a group, they've worked together. They seem to have much more appetite to do things regionally than I've seen other places in the country. So I definitely think there could be something there. And then Paul, just because to answer the second question on that, and this may be of other ones too. Yes, you can submit multiple bids. You do have to create a second Procure Now account on that. If you have individual questions on how to do that, you can't do it multiple from the same account. It's just a limitation of it, but it won't. We're not going to knock out if there's multiple bids. You just have to create a second email and tie it to the same company, which is fairly straightforward. If you have any questions, please email and we can show you exactly how to do that. All right. The next question is, even when you share the data with other state and local governments, will you make that information available to the organizations that did respond? I think that I can take the first cut at that outside of the NTXIA. Yeah, so we are going to capture a list. We have a list of who who the governments on Marketplace are that would be already eligible to get it. So we can make that clear to folks. We don't, if there's an individual sort of request for data or see data, say, hey, City X is looking at vendor Y's page or her response at that granular level, but we are actually capturing a list specific to this opportunity of who is which organizations are taking the data and asking for the data and seeing that. So we've started to compile that. We haven't sort of published where that link is yet. We were waiting till sort of after today to add a few more to it. And I think some of the stuff Jen is talking about with tomorrow. So yes, we will make that available to, these are beyond the, whatever the exact number is, 25 to 30, 28. I don't know what the current number is, Jen, in NTXIA, the other governments that have requested to take the data as well. Anything to add to that, Jen?
I don't think so, unless there's any follow-up.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay, the next one is, this is a kind of solution presentation, not a binding innovation challenge, right? Yeah, so this is a multi-part question answering that. Yeah, so it's not binding, right? We're not asking for a specific, price or quote or that sort of piece. So we're basically letting people, display sort of what it is. And then the second part of that is, what's the incentive to present it here and now? I think the biggest incentive is there's an active group of people who, are asking for the data and want the data. And the next steps are they want to see what the best ones are and meet with folks with the goal of, the goal of moving forward with some of them, right? It's hard to say what exactly they're moving forward with because they're still sort of seeing what it is. But I mean, I think that's the sort of biggest solution on part of that. And then there's a question about, are there fees charged during the process as part of Marketplace? No, there's no fee as part of the process. I think generally our fee is only for, there's fees associated with using Marketplace if there's transactions that happen through the platform, and that may or may not be the case with some of these. I mean, that obviously our longer term business model, so that's our goal. But there's not any specific fees to participate through it. So, but happy to answer more detailed questions on that offline. The next one is, are you open to European startups applying? Absolutely. I mean, there's been no geographic restrictions on that yet. And I think, certainly across, I'll let Jen speak to NTXIA and conversations you've had, across the sort of Marketplace landscape, there are definitely governments who are very interested in seeing what people outside of their neighbors are doing, right? So outside of state and local US, yes, we're located in the US and a big portion of the users are, not all of them. So yeah, definitely encourage anyone from anywhere who has one, the solution that fits to do that. Jen, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, I would just echo that, when we already are doing some work with European companies, so there's already precedent there, but no need to put limits on who could submit. You're on mute, sir.
Yep, I am on mute. So it looks like Benedict, you'd raise your hand as well. Chris, I think you have to promote him to speak. I don't know if there's an additional. All right, you should be able to speak now if you want to. If there's anything to add to that, or if you had a specific additional question.
No, sorry, it was a fat finger mistake. That was fine.
Oh, no worries. All right, great. Okay, perfect. All right, the next one, and I don't know, it says anonymous, so I don't know who it is. So, but you can ask the question if we're not answering correctly. It says, what's the success rate? I don't know if that, in this particular area, I think this is, a little bit unique. So I don't know that there is a success rate of, what do we expect the number of people applying, that how many will get adopted? I don't know that exactly true. I mean, we as Marketplace run, a similar process to this, not exactly this process, because often there's a specific ask and a buy through it, all the time for the last couple of years. So that success rate has been pretty high of things going to completion. Obviously, some things don't have budget and fail. So I don't know if I'm answering that correctly. I mean, the number of projects that run through Marketplace that go to a successful contract is pretty high. It's definitely north of 90%. But it doesn't necessarily mean that 90% of applicants end up with a contract, if that makes sense. And I don't know, Jen, if there's anything, there's probably not anything to add to that, but if there's anything you want to add to that.
I mean, no, this is our first endeavor of this type, so we certainly don't have any data to share with that.
And to whoever asked that, if that didn't answer it, if you want to ask the question more explicitly, we still have time. All right, next one is, are you already collecting data from both public and private sector to solve city challenges? And it says, and are you consulting private sector on their data needs? So the first part, I think the answer is yes, we're already collecting data, right? So we didn't want to spend a lot of time going through the process to date. But we are doing this as a result of, we using our process for Marketplace have shared background data on revenue generating solutions that we've seen in flight other places, the companies, their case studies, the contracts where those have been available, the partnership models. We shared sort of what we call our market landscape, right, which is the wide casting net of options. We knew for this space that there were going to be some more specific questions that immediately popped up. Hey, can this be done regionally? Can it be done with the transit agency? Can we do all those things that weren't necessarily clear from our databases, the case studies, data crawling, all of the above. It's also a unique enough situation. This is not I provide Freedom of Information Act software, right? Like that's got clearer bounds on what it is. So we knew that there's likely emerging things and things that were missing based on there not being a set of keywords. So I don't know if that answers the question, but yes, the idea is that some of data on this space and emerging trends and categories has already been shared. I'm not sure, and maybe Jen, better understand the question. I'm not sure I understand the question on the, are we consulting the private sector on their data needs? I think I would take that as my understanding would be anyone moving towards a contract or a partnership with one or multiple of the cities. It's not a one-way street, right? There's going to be that understanding of what do you need private sector from the government in order to make this work, right? We asked some of the questions about that in the document. What's the criteria, the baseline stuff that you would need a government to have in order to do it, right? Something that works for transit something that works for transit would require a transit system, right? Things of that nature. And I don't know, Peter, if you want to clarify that question, we can either find you in the list and add you, or you can raise your hand and we can do that.
Well, and one thing maybe that would spur that is the other way I'm reading the consulting the private sector on their data needs to me would be, we've mentioned, nascent looking at data monetization, what that means. So I'm not sure if the private sector conversation would be what would be attractive if we were willing to monetize that way at some point. I mean, that's a jump in the discussion, but I'm not sure if that is part of what was intended with that question or not.
And it looks like from the chat, Peter, you are happy with that answer. So if that changes, you can ask something different. All right, just keep the questions coming in. We still got some more. So Jenna, this one, I'll start with you. Will NTXIA use a process to rank similar solutions, or is that going to be up to individual cities or regions?
That's going to be part of the exercise when we get together and review this. So it's going to be both. Let's all flag which one of these we feel are applicable regionally, and do we want to dive deeper into those? Individual cities have already told me, beyond the 6 buckets that NTXIA is looking at this year, we are specifically looking at how to move forward on these 12, right? So it's going to be a little bit of both. But the idea is the exercise, and that will include NTXIA and then these kind of group convenings, across different jurisdictions. We'll be looking for those commonalities as well.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that as part of the way we aggregate the data together, right? It's meant to be filterable to a city's needs, right? Some solutions will work better for cities of a certain size, a big size, and some will work better for cities of a smaller size, maybe. There might be other criteria, right? And so that doesn't, a ranking system for what cities of 1 million plus want and what cities of 25,000 want would be different. So we try to show it and then make it filterable to whatever the characteristics are of that city. Yeah. Other questions? I think
we have a couple questions.
Oh, sorry, we have questions in the chat. All right, let me find those. Sorry, there's multiple places. Let me look. This one. All right. All right. Are NTXA members working together now on any sharing or savings, or will this be the first venture of this scale? So I guess I take that question, Jen, are there already ongoing multi-jurisdiction projects?
This would be the first that NTXIA implements. There are certainly projects we track that are already happening regionally, so we can make sure and be learning and building on those. But this would be first.
So yeah, first through NTXIA, but already some that are going on. I think we've already answered this one, but are international companies invited? Yes, just to reiterate, definitely. Sorry, I'm scrolling through. Yeah, so just on another question as it related to pricing. Yeah, so we're not, knowing that there's multiple cities taking it, the question was, asking more about ideas and not holding to specific costs, right? Knowing that there are multiple cities taking this and the cost to implement or the revenue that can be captured will be different for, I'll just pick 2 cities in NTXIA. Different for Dallas than it would be Corinth of 25,000, right? Dallas is 1 million plus. I don't know what the current census said. Corinth is 25,000. We know, and they all acknowledge there'd be differences as it relates to that. So it's not asking for a specific, exactly how it would work for each of them. We do ask questions in there that talk about what drives the costs, right? Is it, city size? Is it usage based? Is it, number of people, land area, whatever it is. What is the driver, and then what drives the revenue, right? Sort of same thing. Is it, usage based? Is it number of people? Is it amount of data? Whatever it is. So no, there's not a specific ask in there. That would be, later specific for city X is really excited about a certain set of thing, and they go into negotiations. Then that's where we would. That's where there would be a specific quotes or that sort of thing. Jen, anything to add to that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, perfect. Let me make sure. All right, I think we've answered all of the questions that have currently come in. If we haven't, either you can type it again or you can raise your hand. We're happy to let folks talk. If need be. So I do want to make sure if folks do have it, we get any more in. So I'll give people a minute. So one just came in. Oh, I think that's the same one from before. I think that is and maybe it was that the one we just answered about. Yes, so we're asking for different ideas, right, and not holding to costs. Just to make sure that's clear. That may have just been in there twice. Great. All right, looks like we answered it. We'll give folks a minute. Jen, anything you thought going into this that would get asked that hasn't, that you want to clarify? I think we've hit on a lot of the places I thought we would be.
No, this pretty much covered the bases. I think, for those of you that haven't dug in to the call yet, I think it's really geared toward being high level enough to not be overwhelming to y'all. We certainly hope, but detailed enough that we know where we want to drill deeper. So again, I encourage everyone to apply and then not say, but I wanted to explain this, because the whole purpose is for us to narrow down and then have those individual deep dive conversations and bring folks in the room. So the hope is it's a high enough bar that we get what we need, and a low enough bar that it's feasible, for y'all to do. So just add that.
Perfect. And I will go back and double check that there aren't more questions. So if you are, keep asking them, but if not, I'm going to do so what should I do next that I promised? Right. So if you are a solution provider, if you have a solution or a partner who does, go and read the opportunity overview. It's, I think, 2 pages long. It might be 3. The number of questions we're asking is around 15, and some of them are radio buttons to check, right? Like it isn't a huge lift. Go see if you think you're a good fit, and definitely, as we mentioned, right, we wanted to keep, we know there's new innovation out there. We wanted to not make the bounds too strict, because different cities, based on our pre-conversations, are definitely answering for different things. Register on Marketplace.city, and as I said, follow the project on our Procure Now piece. That will make sure you get all the right updates. If you register on Marketplace.city too, it's going to make it easier to share your responses with government. We may follow up with folks who haven't afterward. We do ask specifically as one of the questions to confirm you're registered on Marketplace, so it's easy for us to share the data afterward. And then submit by July 16th. Right, we did this. We're probably not, given the interest so far, in a position, Jen can speak for herself on this too, to take, have a solution deep dive in advance of this with sort of everyone who's interested. That's part of the point of doing this, is to make sure we have the information and then are prioritizing based on the right needs. Also, we at Marketplace, and probably even Jen too, are not the deciders on what the cities want. So convincing us isn't always the best route. So that's on the solution provider company side. And on the government side, if you're interested in this, reach out at hello@marketplace.city, or to Jen, or to me, Andrew, at marketplace.city. We'll make sure you get the data when it's available. Obviously, that will be a little bit on later in the summer. You can register at Marketplace as well. These links are active to the correct registration places when we send it out. So then we can share it to you on the platform and get the revisions as it's updated. And then, if you know that you've talked to folks, or I encourage governments on here, share this with your local or existing vendors, right? There's great new startups in every community growing all the time. And that's part of the reason, some of these things to sort of capture those. Help your economic development folks get your local businesses connected to new cities. So put in the plug for that of being able to share this. So those are the main actions. I am going to double check. Do we have any more questions?
Just one more request to see where the opportunity overview is on the website.
Okay, I will. We can paste it into the chat, the direct link. Chris, if you can do that, while I will show one more time. Oops, where it is, if I can get, there we go. Get this off the screen. What's that? Let me get. All right, this is the actual Procure Now piece that you will come to. So on the page, I'll go backwards, but on the page, this is the link to the actual solicitation that we talked about. And then on Marketplace, and we're pasting it in the chat, but we'll also make sure when we send it out, all the links are in here. If you go down, and I may need to add this to another place too to make it more obvious, but if you go down to the list of cities and go to NTXIA, it can be found right there. If you go one farther to the featured opportunities, it's number 1 right there. It does cut off on the front page to see it, but if you go on that, then you'll be able to get to all the information. So hopefully that answers the question. One more question coming in. Great.
Q&A.
Let me stop my share so I can see it and read it off. Sorry. Yeah, so the question is the submission deadline a hard deadline? Bigger corporations move slowly, and 1 month may be too short, maybe too short. Yeah, for the first round of data, it is. If there's really a lot of interest, and you think there's specific questions on there that might be harder to, we can create a copy of it and take submissions later. That will, just out of full transparency, the first wave of presentations back to folks, it won't be in, right? We do want to keep this moving forward. I think if you take a look at the questions, if there's specific things that are hanging up on those submissions, since we're not asking for detailed cost proposals and things like that, you may find that there is enough time to do it. But if there are specific if there are specific questions that are hanging up, you feel free to email us and we can find a solution. We do ultimately, as we expect, there'll be more interest, and this is not these types of solutions aren't going away. We do expect that there'll be times to refresh this and these sort of things if there are newer ones, but we do want to make sure we're getting information back to the NTXIA folks. I think there was one more question. It's if you're already registered on Marketplace, can you use that one? The answer is yes. You can link to your existing Marketplace profiles. Just put in what your existing Marketplace company or product page is. That's no problem. And there are instructions in the Procure Now on what we're asking for from a Marketplace piece, just to make sure we tie off the submissions and so it can be shared in the best way. But yes, if you're already a previously registered Marketplace user, use that. You don't do not need to be a net new one. You do. Sorry, just to make sure I'm clear on not. We are hopefully using Procure Now is making it easy for folks to respond, easier than our prior way. We have not fully integrated that. You do have to create a separate Procure Now, but it's just your email and your password, and they're just for some. If accepting submissions, they're not gonna market to you. They sell to government, so they're not gonna market to the vendors. So they don't sell to vendors. Any last questions? Otherwise, we can let people go. Give them back a few minutes in their day. We know that you love Zoom. As I said before, if there are process or submissions questions and something's not working, like some of those last ones there, as it relates to how do I register or things like that, you can email hello. We can get all that solved, no problem. And as Jen said earlier on, for the cities or governments or nonprofits who are working on this as well, if you want to learn how to collaborate with her, you can reach out to Jen. Any final thoughts, Jen? Anything we missed?
No, I'm just so thrilled, and I'm really excited to see what comes back. This learning piece is key, and municipalities nor I, really have time for 50, one-on-ones, and so the ability for us to have full visibility into all of this at once, I think is so beneficial for everyone. So just really looking forward to it.
Great. All right, and with that, we are going to stop. So thanks everyone for joining. We will post this once it's finished compiling and get it up on the website, and then email out the slides that do have all the links in it as well, and the link to where the recording is located. So with that, thank you, Jen, for taking the time today and doing that. Thanks to folks who were on, who asked the questions, and vendors to submit. And I know some of our city partners and government partners were watching as well, or joining as well. Thank you guys for being engaged on this as well. We're excited to get the data back to you all. So excellent.